WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and our website, www.wvtcdetroit.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. Thank you for tuning to WVTC Radio Detroit and the Community Bell Show with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner, Edna Bell. Stay tuned for insightful information Detroiters will find valuable. Text a friend and tell them to watch with you for news you can use. And now, your host, Edna Bell.
Hello. It's Monday at 4:00, so it must be the Community Bell Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We are always happy to have you. Now, last Monday, we were talking about it being sunny and warm and beautiful. And this Monday, it's more like Michigan weather. It still isn't as cold, but it is rainy and cloudy. But you know what? We'll accept rainy and cloudy. It's okay. We know what happens in Michigan this time of year. But it's a good day. We're here. We're happy. Thank you for joining us. We've got special person with us today, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot. The only thing I will say is you guys know about me and grandson number one, Grant James Johnson. Grant's home. Grandson's home from college. First semester of college. He's home. I think he got a little bit taller, but he's home, did well. So we're just real happy with Grant James Johnson being home and all his little buddies. Now, my guest today is someone you've heard before and seen before on the Community Bell Show. She is a very special young lady who has worked in our community, has done all sorts of wonderful things at her alma mater, Cass Technical High School. Um, we're just glad to have her. And let me introduce to you now the Honorable Monique Bryant, Board Member Elect, Detroit Public School System. Welcome, Madam Bryant.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We are so glad to have you and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's just such an honor to represent Detroiters on the school board.
Well, we're glad to have you. Obviously, you came in number 2, which is no small feat when you consider the number of people who were running and some of the names and some of the things that those people were doing and some of the advertising and the monies that were spent. You came in number 2. That is quite a feat, and we congratulate you. We're so happy, so
Thank
happy.
you. So
I'm just,
am I. And
yes,
you called me a winner even before.
absolutely.
even
I just
before.
knew it. I said, you are the winner. You are
Yes,
going to
yes.
win. This is your time because we need you. The children need you. The parents need you. And as we had said a little bit earlier, what's for you is for you. God sets things up the way he wants them set up. Sometimes man thinks they're in control, and then he'll come along and say, no, 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 no. That's not the way it's going to be. That's not happening. This is what I want. And he wanted you in that spot, and that's where you are. So we're expecting great things from you.
And I concur. And initially when I thought in 22, when I ran, and I did fairly well, but immediately I was like, I'm running in the next election. So with that thought process, I thought a delay is not a denial.
That's right.
And I knew my purpose. And now I look back and I thought I just needed 2 more years of preparation.
There you go.
So
There you
now
go.
I am ready. Thank you to the almost 43,000 Detroiters who voted for me. Thank you so much. And I have rolled up my sleeves and been working since November 6th.
Well, good. That's what it takes, and it is no small task.
No,
It
not
is
at
no
all.
small task. Just the learning curve alone, even though you've been working in the schools and doing things, it's a whole nother ball game when you get to the school board level, a whole nother level of knowledge that you have to acquire and understand.
Absolutely.
And so it is no small task. It is hard work. And I know people sometimes don't think that it's hard work. It's hard work, everybody. I want you to know. You can't imagine the amount of reading material. And, and back in my day, a few years ago, we would get our board packets. Typically, we get them 3 or 4 days before the board meeting. They would be this thick. Now we're talking about paper. Then we're not talking about electronically. We're talking about paper, and you had to read through the contracts, and you had to try to figure out what it really meant.
Right.
It was no small task. It was quite a job, and I was working full time at the time, and had two children, and so
Absolutely.
it was a task to read all of that material and to understand it prior to the board meeting. And so, yeah, it is. And now it's not paper, it's just electronic. So you still got all that stuff to read. So it's just in a different format.
Well, I'm going to tell you, our board secretary, Ms. Vanya Moore, did a fabulous job of creating a binder. So I have one that's this thick. And actually, I'm old school because I like to highlight. So she did a wonderful job at board doc. So by the time I'm on stage with my computer, I could probably go right to everything. But little did I know, I need to take 10 courses through the Michigan Association of School Boards.
Yes.
So that begins after January 1st. So I'll be back in school.
You'll be back in school.
I'll be back in school.
And I don't think people recognize how involved it is in terms of you don't just get elected to be a school board member and go there and sit. There are real courses that teach you how to do that and what to look for and what you can and cannot do. But
Absolutely.
it's interesting though. That's a new phenomenon. Back in my day, we didn't have all of those courses.
Oh, wow.
We had a few courses that would help you, but we didn't have
Okay.
what you guys have today, which
Right.
is and unfortunately, I think we might have been able to use it, but what we had were staff members who would help us go through and try and understand it.
Okay.
But yeah, those training sessions really are good training sessions.
They are. And to find out, uh, as they say, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And transitioning now from a parent and community person, a lot of times you'd be at a meeting and you think one thing should be going on
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. That's because there's rules
That
to how you
how you can-
engage
yes.
the community and how you move business forward for the
Mhm.
district. So I think one of the lanes that I absolutely am looking forward to doing is leaning towards explaining policy to our students, parents, and then community members.
Yes.
I think that will allow us to be more effective
Mhm.
and to get more business done on behalf of our students.
Yes, because if the people understand why things are going on, they won't be as apt to be upset and want to scream and holler about you didn't do so and so, or you didn't do
Right.
this. We didn't do it but that's not how this goes. You can't do it.
Exactly. And I think, a lot of times there's been, contention because people feel, if we take out just the current DPSCD board and the superintendent, the things that our city has gone through with education has been very traumatic.
Yes.
And we have not allowed healing.
Mm-hmm.
We just we're as they say we're full,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the negative has been more on the vocal side, the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think moving forward when we transition with the two new members on the board, myself and Miss Ida Short, there'll be a little bit of a difference just automatically because of our type of engagement and Ida having experience on the DPS board.
Mm-hmm.
So she definitely brings some of that knowledge forward. And it helps myself because as a current parent now, I wasn't a parent then.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
just a lot of things that were, transpired just kind of went over my head because I didn't have kids in the school.
It didn't affect you. And when things are not directly impactful for you, it doesn't matter. You just ignore it.
Right.
Because it's not a part of your world. But once it becomes a part of your world, then that's a whole nother ball game. And then you get a lot more engaged in what the heck is going on and why ABC happened and CDEFG didn't happen.
And I really think, when I was out on the campaign trail, I would get a lot of individuals saying, well, I don't have kids in the district, so they weren't necessarily engaged. But I think that's where we need more engagement because our current parents need that mentorship and they need to understand their role as a parent. And a lot of times it's the negative that they hear. Well, you aren't doing this, you aren't sending your kid to school, but they don't know why or the importance, or they're not, just that mentorship. A lot of grandparents, and we've discussed this because you're very involved. A lot of grandparents are raising grandchildren and assisting.
And I don't think that the greater community really recognizes how many grandparents are raising children, their grandchildren. And these grandparents are 70s and higher in some cases. And they're trying to raise these babies and they need help.
Absolutely.
And there's so many of them. There are many more than people think. And they absolutely need help just in terms of getting them ready for school. Just, if you're 75 years old and you've got 3 grandkids who are now your responsibility because the parents, unfortunately, may be deceased or just not around, and you have responsibilities for those babies. You got to get up in the morning, you got to feed them, You got to dress them. You got to get them to school. And then when they come home, you got to figure out how to do homework. Now, I can't even imagine trying to figure out how to do homework with my grandkids. I mean, I just can't. That would be my worst nightmare. They should try to figure out, ELA. Now, we never used ELA when I was in school.
Exactly.
And I finally had to, what is ELA, gang? And they told me, okay, that's a wonderful thing. But the fact that these people who are 70 years old and higher have got to figure out how to get this homework done. And how to get these kids up dressed and in school and then back home and fix dinner and all the things that are associated with children. I can't imagine that.
Well, I'll go a step further. Technology itself.
Yes.
A lot of things, and I've been a parent in the district for 8 years, and I've seen how we've transferred from paper to Power School, checking grades and attendance, opting in for robocalls.
Yes.
Emails.
Yes.
A lot of people, don't necessarily have an email address.
Suppose they don't have internet access in their home, and that's a whole nother story.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine that. So we need a whole another section, and I think they do have one for grandparents raising grandchildren in school. And I know there's something that assists those people, but I cannot imagine that.
Well, I understand it because like you assisting your grandchildren, my mom is very hands-on. She's actually raising 4 grandchildren.
Oh my.
3 of my sisters are one totally disabled, and so she is not only taking care of her, but she's taking care of her son. And then she has my other 2 nephews and a niece. So it's a lot. It is.
I can't imagine. And so they need all the help and prayers we can give them.
Right.
So when you think about that piece of it, and there are grandparents doing that, I get very irritated with parents who are not doing what they're supposed to do. Now that piece,
and we've discussed that.
Yeah. Yes, we have, and the fact that there are parents who are not sending their children to school, that bothers me. And I know there's a whole school of thought that says, well, we shouldn't be punitive for those I disagree. We need to be punitive. They need to have somebody say, hey, this is not what you do.
So, when we talk about that parent piece, one thing that jumps out at me is that we don't have enough fathers, because there's 2 parents.
Yeah.
And so women are often charged as single mothers,
yes,
to lead.
Yes.
But I believe that we have not, as a community, embraced the fathers and been more open to inviting them in.
And we need to do that. Absolutely.
It's one thing to have to deal with mom, and you all may be having, some issues. But I think we need to, encourage dads to say, hey, you don't have to necessarily deal with mom, but you can you're more than welcome to come up to the school, come to parent teacher conference, check on grades, the same things that we expect moms to do.
You too can do.
Can do
and should be doing.
And you don't have to,
ask
mom's permission.
Yes.
So I think one of the big things, and I hope I have your help. We need to, change that narrative and invite men in and work through that process, because it's two parents.
Yes.
And we've been letting dads, I don't want to say escape off the hook.
It's okay to say off the hook.
But a lot of dads have just said, hey, I don't want to deal with the
mother,
with the drama. And so they're I'll just do my support, pick up the kids when I can. And most of the time it's the grandparents that are facilitating that.
Yes.
So when we still talk about educating our students, grandparents play a pivotal role. Absolutely. Whether they're taking care of them, by default, or if mom is working on the behalf of her son to try to navigate the situation so that he's allowed to see his child and to step in that space and provide, some reassurance that you might not be seeing your dad, but you are loved over here on this side of the family.
Yeah.
And I think that is a critical piece. Because kids, I mean, especially parents who have multiple kids.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot,
It is a lot.
to have 3 or 4 kids and you're trying to give all the nurturing, but we have to put aside the negativity and say, let's work for the best interest of our students.
Absolutely.
So,
And see, that's the school board member. Isn't that wonderful? See, I'm not a school board member anymore, so I can tell you. Look, parents, you better get those kids to school. If not, see, I'm for the prosecutor coming in and taking and sending you a message saying, if the child is not in school, we're gonna come get you and we're gonna bring you to court, and you have to have some consequences. Because for a child to miss 43 days in the first semester, how can they possibly learn anything?
right.
And I don't care what you say. If he missed 43 days, the parent's responsible.
Well, we asked the prosecutor to go after a dad who is more than $5,000 behind on child support. So,
why would you ask me to go after the people who don't send the kids to school?
You have to make sure you have the money and the resource, and then the other parent is doing their job.
Yep.
And we're working together as a team. And I don't believe that that's asking too much.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then the other piece, as we look at that whole, we say that absenteeism is the top priority for the school system. Well, if in fact that's true, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. How many attendance agents do we have? And, I know attendance agents that they've got doing lunchroom duty. Well, if absenteeism is a priority, you're attendance agent. Why are you taking time away from that attendance agent to do your lunchroom duty when they ought to be trying to get these kids in school?
Well, it all boils down
That's
to
an issue.
That boils down to accountability.
Yes.
And what I believe to be true is that if you're hired to do a job, that's what my expectation is for you.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we may have some shortages here and there, and might be asked to fill in, but that shouldn't be
a regular thing.
A regular thing. And so, kind of what I've just done is like pop up at schools just to see what the culture is like, because obviously the proper or what the protocol expected is that you make an appointment and you come over and you visit, but you have to put your eyes.
I used to pop up at schools all the time.
Okay.
So it's okay.
I feel
pop up and they'd be like, "Oh,
I feel like it's okay."
It's okay.
And in certain instances, people have been amazed because they're like, "Oh, school board members." You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, but and I tell myself, this is not something like I want to catch you off guard doing something, but I need to see
a regular old school day. I don't want you to make it look good because I'm coming.
Bribe the students to behave.
Yeah.
But
I don't want that to
I
happen.
have been pleasantly pleased with the students, but I see that there's some opportunities, and there should always be an opportunity that we're looking for to increase our effectiveness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think people feel comfortable talking to me. I'm not out here to throw anyone under the bus, but
I just want to learn and I want to see it in real time.
Right.
I don't want you guys to have to make something up just because I'm coming. I want to see it the way it goes regular time.
And honestly, that was my engagement guarantee as part of my platform. And when I ran in 22, I was one saying, where are the board members? If we're responsible for so many schools, the leadership in the school should know who you are. If they have a issue, they should be able to call you. I mean, it's just going to the website and looking up who the board members are. And, I believe that, we have to get past this mindset of I'm a volunteer. because you are a volunteer with however many votes got you in that seat on the stage. So you may not be paid.
You are not a volunteer.
But you're
School
not
board
a-
member. You are
you're
not
not-
a
you're not a-
volunteer.
you're
You
not a
are an
volunteer.
elected representative of the
Absolutely.
Detroit Public School
So-
System for Detroit, and you have a job.
Absolutely.
Your
And if
job-
you didn't want that job, then you shouldn't have run.
That's right.
You shouldn't have run.
You have a job, and you knew how much it paid when you ran for it. So if you think it's not paying enough money, then you shouldn't have run for
Right.
it. Now, mind you, when I was a school board member, we got $30 per official meeting.
Oh, wow.
I know that's different from what goes on now. But when it went up to $50 for Detroit, and the rest of the state was not getting 50 at the time, they
Wow.
went crazy.
Wow.
They're gonna get $50 a meeting. Oh my God.
Well, you
But and that was just for school board meetings and
Right.
committee meetings, and all the other stuff you did
Was-
that was not counted.
So we've come a long
Oh,
way.
you've come a long
And
way.
I don't think people realize that. So now it's like $250 for a board, official board meeting. But I don't think, this is why I'm saying community engagement. When people understand what the role is. So if you're saying, well, I'm coming to a meeting, but you choose to come to a meeting and you are choosing to be engaged.
Yes.
But I need, when you come, to be respectful,
Absolutely.
come with some solutions, and let's work together.
And that respectful part, that's what they do now is not new. We had days, oh boy,
Wow.
oh man, we had people
Well,
that had to
yeah.
be barred from the meetings, and we had people who would throw the whole paper at us, and we
Oh,
were a lot
wow.
closer to our people than you guys are.
Right. Okay.
And so that, and so he had to be put out, of course. And so we had some interesting
Right.
dynamics going on, but that was.
Well, I believe that people should, if you wouldn't do that in church, don't come to.
No, she didn't say. She said that, everybody.
I did.
She said, if
I
you wouldn't
did.
do that in church, these people are special. But the other special part about it is that I believe they're special because they don't believe they're being heard. And you do have to listen to people.
You do.
Some of my biggest supporters were people who initially approached me screaming and hollering and shouting. They were just so upset. They went on.
Right.
And I just let them talk. And once they got it out of their system and said what they needed to say, and I made some kind of a response to them, they were my best supporters.
Right.
But you've got to let people get it out.
But people sometimes just need to vent.
Exactly.
It's
Let
no
them vent.
different from when you have a phone call and you just on the phone, like listening. And people don't necessarily want the feedback.
Don't want
They
to say
just need to
anything,
get
just
it off
Get it
their
out.
chest.
Exactly.
And then, give them a day or two and then go back. It's almost like they forgot they cursed you out.
Yes.
I've not had that, and I'm not expecting
Oh.
or looking for it, but I'm sure that
It's
will be.
coming.
But
Trust me.
Right.
It's
But
coming,
that's
but
what you
that's
call-
okay.
But that's
you
what you
just
call
listen.
grace and
Yeah.
and grace and mercy. Because how many
That's right. You
times?
just listen and just let them say what they need to say. They need
Right.
to say that. They needed to say that. They need to
Right.
get that off their chest. So let them say it, and then go on with the conversation.
See, and I love that because being on the receiving end of your mentorship. Because again, people go in thinking one thing and it's totally something
Whole
different.
nother ball
So
game.
for me, transitioning from that role of a parent, and I never was one that engaged. I tried to research policies, come with solutions, and so I think in my space, I had pretty productive outcomes, and that's what people need to understand. You can be productive without being disruptive
Absolutely.
and without being condescending. So when you put out that positive energy, I definitely think it may not affect a person right at that time, but when they think about it, like, oh, she didn't cuss me out. She didn't.
She listened
she
to me.
she heard me shout to the
Yeah,
top of my lungs, and then she was able to say,
Okay, how can I help you?
How
Let's
can I
how
help
can we work this out?
Right.
And like I said, those were some of my biggest supporters then and even to this day. They came at you like with all they had, and they were ready for a fight. And when they didn't get one, they go, "Oh, okay."
And I think a lot of our teachers feel what you feel.
Mhm.
When you have parents come up and, why are you doing this and such as they're not thinking they have 5 kids at home versus 30 in a
Yes.
classroom, with 10 being disruptive
Yes.
and
Yes.
whatever else is going on.
Mhm.
So again, everybody is entitled to some grace and mercy.
Yes.
We've got to understand
Mhm.
that we're working together.
Yes.
We can't be divisive. The parent can't curse the teacher out in front of the student.
No.
And
You cannot do that.
and then the student and expect the student to come back to school the next day.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you want my mama to come back up here, my dad?
Mhm.
You can't. So
You
you
can't
have
do that.
you have to lead by example.
Yes.
And we do have students that are part of the board, and so you want to be mindful that we're laying a foundation for our students or how we conduct ourselves.
Mhm.
And they may not be your individual student, but your words can be hurtful, and you can't take words back.
That's right. That's right.
You can't
You
take
can't
them
take
back.
it back.
And so I mean all of those things I'm just like constantly going in my head, just thinking, I don't want to mess this, I don't want to mess this up. Because you sitting on the stage, you like, stage
Oh,
fright.
yes,
You
I
get ready to
know.
sing a
Oh
song,
my
you're like,
God. Look at all these
I
people
forgot
out here.
right.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I really feel comfortable, just conversating and being in front of people and just hearing them and knowing that my advocation for them will make things better
Yes.
for them and their students.
Mhm.
And that's really what I believe my purpose is at this time. And people figure, oh well, this I've heard this too. Well, people start on the school board and they divvy off to do something else. Education is what my passion is. But I do know that there are other things that come with that.
Mhm.
And so I would like to work effectively with, our Detroit mayor. We've got a mayor's race
Yes.
coming up.
Yes.
New council members will
Mhm.
probably see,
Mhm.
so in this climate, we're talking about working effectively with
Mhm.
our local government.
Yes.
No matter what
Yes.
goes on
Yes.
at the state and the
Mhm.
federal level,
You've got to work with your local people.
we've got
And I know people didn't really know a lot of this, but when I was on the school board, Coleman Young was the mayor, and people didn't recognize how closely we worked with him because we didn't broadcast it.
right.
We'd go and he'd have dinner at his
Oh
house
wow.
in the boathouse, and we'd sit there and we'd talk about items. He would ask us, how can I help you? What do
Right.
we need to do? And that was not something we talked about all the time. Most people never knew it even happened. But it was important that he thought enough and understood enough that
Mhm.
how important education was to his city, in our city,
Right.
to find out what he could do. And we'd say to him, well, we need some more police officers maybe around the schools. Okay. And he did it. But
Wow.
people never knew how that happened and why, and that was okay.
Thank goodness we didn't have social media back then.
I know, I know.
And that's the other scary thing
I
because
know.
people are so quick to, post things
Mhm.
without having a background
Mhm.
and just going with it.
Mhm.
And so I hope that we can do some training, around
Mhm.
social media. It's a wonderful tool, but before you get to posting things,
Yeah, you don't post everything.
not
Everything
not
doesn't,
not
doesn't
every,
need to be posted.
especially when you don't have context.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I can say, I've spoken, a couple of times and starting to build a relationship with Superintendent Dr. Vitti.
Mhm.
And I said to him, a lot of times you have taken the weight of a lot of negativity
Mhm.
just because you're the face.
Yes. Yes.
and it's not been fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is because he takes that on. He realizes that's part of the job. And I told him, I said, it had to be tough coming into Detroit. Detroiters are tough.
Yes, yes,
And they don't forget.
No.
So with that being said, he probably had a negative start, from the get-go, not being from Detroit and being considered an outsider. But I would hope that, as we make a transition, that, let's just say we had 8 years. He's got an extended contract.
When is his contract up?
In 2028.
28. So he's got 4 more years.
So he has a new board. And I think, I would like to see our board bringing forth some new energy and light and giving him some direction of what we desire
to
happen.
Yeah. And that has to be a two-way street.
Yes.
The board has to give him some direction as to what their community is looking to do and how they're looking to do it. And as a superintendent, he has to also give some direction based on what he knows from his position as superintendent and the inner workings of the system. And so that's a two-way street. It can't be one way. It can't be him always being the one to tell you what's going to happen. That's not how it works.
And again, to your first point, there's a season for everything. And sometimes you have to know when a season could be up.
Yes.
And you need, our young people, they're moving in a different world.
And it's a fast-paced world.
It is. So doing things at a snail's pace, the way, we used to do, you can't do that. We can't wait, 6 weeks for you to figure out, okay, let's move this forward and some things can move a little bit faster.
Yes.
And let's take care of a situation. Let's not get bogged down with a bunch of red tape and just, I call them boulders, roadblocks, because students, they're kind of they're the driving force.
Yeah.
And you have seen that just with,
yes, my grandkids.
with your grandkids transitioning from high school to college. It doesn't wait.
No, it does not.
And so where, things could go at a snail's pace, they've got everything in their phone. So when they come to you with something, they're going, oh, we're here.
Yes.
And you're like, well, let me think about, well, I got it right here. Can you order it? Can you pay for it? But, I think, some new energy with young people having more say, increasing, uplifting their voices. And I spoke with departing member Misha Stallworth, and she was saying, I would love to see more of our youth involved.
Yes.
And I have made a pledge to her to continue that. I love working with young people. That's actually my sweet spot between like 13 and 17. Because, they
tell you, they tell you.
You don't have to figure out what it is
they tell
want.
you exactly what it is they want.
Yeah.
And why.
Absolutely.
And why, man, my grandkids, and this past summer, so I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get Cranston a job. We'll get him at McDonald's. I know a lot of Black McDonald's owners, so he's going to get it. He said, no, I don't want to work at McDonald's. I said, excuse me? But I got this job. You know why? Because corporate McDonald's, these young people felt were supporting the war in Israel and Gaza. I said, really? So he said, so no, I'm not going to work there. I said, all righty then. Right. But interestingly enough, so I talked to my friend who owns several McDonald's here and in other states. And I told him, I said, this is what my grandson said. Have you heard? He said, no. He said, but explain to them. I said, I did. That there's a difference between corporate McDonald's and Black McDonald's owners. There is a difference.
Right.
And so I had that conversation with him. And They understood, but I was
Right.
saying, I said, how about that? But I said to him, my friend, I said, "Look, you need to probably tell corporate. So I don't know if corporate knows this stuff that these kids are saying about McDonald's. So they need to know what these kids, and I know if they're saying it here in Detroit, they're saying it everywhere.
Well,
But the kids know already, and the things that I would never have thought of that. That
exactly.
would have never crossed my mind until he told me, no, I'm not working at McDonald's because it's what the world. Oh,
And,
wow.
and,
Yes, socially
and
responsible.
some
These
of
young people
some
are
of that
socially
falls
responsible.
on what we're not seeing in our curriculums.
Mhm.
You know, where we were learning civics.
Yeah. I don't even know if they
government.
still have civics in class because these kids,
They don't.
there
to
are
the
adults
degree.
who don't understand civics who graduate.
Right.
So we need to figure out how to get civics
Right.
lessons.
And so
you know,
if it's not in
I'm only a bill.
Right,
What's
it's
that?
right.
I'm on
So
Capitol Hill.
part of, you know, and I'm not sure of this, you know, when we talk about what curriculum is supposed to be in the schools,
Mhm.
but then do we have an opportunity after school to have these types of, you know, groups and mentorships,
Mhm.
and community service? You know, kids, and you know, a lot of it is because students now can make money on the phone. You know, they hear and see a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so actually the hard work, doing work has kind of been replaced because you see adults doing jobs that used to be meant for kids,
Mm.
like shoveling the snow,
Working
you
at
know,
McDonald's.
cutting grass,
It used to
working at
be a
McDonald's.
kid's
And
job.
so
now, yeah.
I thought when I started hearing that $15, $20 wage an hour, my first thought was these jobs weren't meant for adults
They weren't
to
meant to
take care
raise
of a
families,
family.
son. They were meant for young people.
Right.
Exactly. Entry level young people
Right.
job to learn how to go to work on time and how to be cordial and
Absolutely.
all of those things that go along with working at the fast food restaurants in that industry. Those were not meant to be jobs that families support themselves on.
But somehow,
Yeah, that paper
somehow,
routes. Yes.
you know, we had a whole dynamic change
Mhm.
where people weren't receiving an education in school
That's the
either
difference.
by their own fault that
Mhm.
they just school wasn't for them, or the fact that they weren't educated enough to hold down another job, go to college, or do, you know, trade training.
Mhm.
So now you have a parent and a grandparent, as far as they've gone, is the service of working in service.
Yes.
You know, so you go to your Walmarts or you go anywhere, and I'm telling you, it just amazes me that so many people are complaining like, I hate this job. They tell me one more time to do something. They talking to me crazy. Just, and I'm like,
Go get another one. Go train yourself and get something else.
right. But, you know, don't fault the industry because this is what they pay. And yes, we do see record numbers, you know, of money being made. We
Mhm.
aren't saying that, you know, corporate can't be greedy,
Oh, sure.
but also you can't be needy either.
You can't blame somebody else for your shortcomings.
for your shortcomings. So
Mhm.
I really think just rethinking education and just on our local level, you know, it's easy for people to point out the shortfalls, but what are we doing?
How do we fix it?
How do we fix it?
Mhm.
And we look at the city of Detroit offering grants for small businesses. You know, I love that. But then I'm also thinking, okay, if we're going to do hair salons or something that's really more or less 5 or 6 individual employees that you would have,
Mhm.
I would like to see some real support. Like my dream, and I'm going to speak it into
There
existence.
you go.
So we have, you know, contractors with DPSCD,
Mhm.
but I see the opportunity for, especially in our cleaning companies, to let's have someone think about starting a cleaning company and have 1 or 2 schools that you're hiring parents that work in that school. You know, now there's investment.
Yes.
There's investment from the community. You know, I would love to see where we're talking about these $15,000 grants for block clubs that we're now putting young people to work,
Mhm.
um, managing some things. We have a great opportunity to utilize those funds to really help lift our communities. And there's a school, 2, 3, or 4 in every area.
Mhm.
And just imagine if we're all working together collectively, our school board, you know, our superintendent, and we're identifying needs in our community and we're putting this money to good use. I'm believing that that's what we're going to see. I'm believing that Coleman A. Young would want to see
Oh.
that in his
Yep.
legacy.
Yep.
You know, we're talking about, oh, you know, they came in, we sold all our stores, other people are moving in, but they learned to work together. You see their children working in the gas stations,
Mhm.
in the stores, and we once had that in our
We had,
community.
yes, we did.
So, however we need to get back to that,
Mhm.
that's what we need, and that's where we need our elders to step in and have that mentorship and drive that.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Mhm.
what I'm praying for,
Yeah.
and I'm believing that we're gonna have that.
Well, speak it out there
I,
and make it work. Make it work. You know, you put it in the atmosphere.
Yep.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah.
It will come back to you. Okay. So, new school board member, what areas are you going to be concentrating on?
So of course the engagement piece, and when I talk about engagement, the policy, making sure that our students, parents, and community members understand how to be heard,
Mhm.
how to, you know, effectively be engaged. And there's some training for them. Just like I'm going
Mhm.
through training, there's some training in, you know, like our community wants to make a community comment. Well, let's make sure that sometimes we're not being driven by the moment. Actually, look at the agenda, look at a policy or two, look at what's going on in your school, and, you know, help by writing what you want to say. And then maybe instead of we having 20 people saying the same thing, 20 people come together
Mhm.
with
And have
with
one
with
spokesperson.
one spokesperson.
Yes.
So I'm definitely looking forward to going out to the community, engaging them on that. I'm looking forward to being visible in the schools for our parents, you know, that they're actually feeling like I can come up to the school.
Mhm.
I belong in the school. Our administration and teachers feeling support.
Yes, because you know there was a time, and may still be, was in some places, some schools, parents were not welcome,
I've heard that a lot.
didn't feel welcome, and were not treated as though they would be welcome by the persons running that school. And so that's important that the community and parents feel welcomed into the building where their children are.
And I think it all boils down to leadership. So
Absolutely.
as a board of 7, how we represent
Mhm.
should trickle down to those individuals that work within our district.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you can't disassociate yourself with the concerns and the issues.
That's right. That's right. You can't. And you know, one of the things that I'm so sorry was gotten rid of was we had districts. We used to have districts, and each board member had its own district, and you concentrated on the schools within your district. There's no way a school board member can concentrate on 105 schools.
Right.
And so I would love to see us go back to having districts. You know, before it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was A,
Mhm.
B, C, D, E, F, G. So you know, we had
Right.
numbers, and then we had. But it makes sense for a board member to concentrate on the area where you live. Because my district was where I lived, and I knew those schools and those people real well.
Right. Well, my question is that something that, you know, as a board, we have the latitude to do, or is that something through?
That's elected. It was voted on.
Okay.
Yeah, it was voted on. So
Okay.
you know that's on
Well,
for it,
perhaps,
but it's not doesn't say it can't go back on the ballot. Though.
perhaps we need to put that
Just
out
like
to the
just like
community.
the city council used to be all at large, and they changed that to back. They changed that to
Okay.
district. They can do the same thing with the
Right.
school board. I would think instead of all being at large, change it back to district.
Well,
Be representative. So
you know, I'm open
think about that.
to all ideas,
Okay.
and that's part of community engagement.
There you go.
Everyone has a voice, and I said it's not for me to say no
that's
to what
the community wants.
what the community wants.
Mhm.
It's for us as a board to decide, or
And
as
see
a
what's
city.
best for the best for
decide.
the children. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for
just want-
having
I
me.
just want everybody to see our new school board member and hear her thoughts, and we'll have her back after she has her swearing in and first quarter of the board meetings and see how
See
that's
if I'm still
going.
smiling.
So when is the swearing in?
So actually, we had a formal swearing in almost 2 weeks ago over at Mumford. But we will have another swearing in for our community. So I didn't realize right after, like 10 days after the certification,
You can't be sworn
you
in.
have to be sworn
Mhm.
in, and you have to accept
Uh-huh.
your position.
Yes.
So we've done that. But we will have a swearing in on January the 14th, which is our first board meeting of the year.
Very good. Very good. Very
And
good.
the community is invited to come out, and I can't wait.
It's going to be a great year. I'm looking forward to all the good things that are going to come with the school board next year. So we're going to be excited about watching and being
Absolutely.
involved, and with that, and being engaged in what goes on.
Absolutely.
We're happy about it.
Well, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad you could join us. I'm so glad you could join us. Community Bell Show is always pleased to have good folk join us and talk about good things. Okay, Christmas is next week, everybody.
Gotta get that shopping in.
We won't see you in live on next Monday. You will see a pre-recorded program next Monday. We may even and the following Monday, because Christmas Eve is next week. And we'll see you. Have a great Christmas. Have a blessed Christmas. Keep Christ in it. I know we want to do all of the fun things and like presents and parties and stuff, but let's remember what it's all about and why it's there. Christ didn't just kind of pop up for nothing. So understand what it is.
Absolutely.
Have a great week. Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy holiday. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Community Bell with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. This broadcast was brought to you by WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern to the Community Bell Show, right here on WVTC Radio Detroit.
I love teaching others because when I first got into the healthcare field, people overlooked me. I was really a ninth grade dropout who had no education, but I was determined to make something of myself for my baby. So Motor City matched the funds I put into my business. They awarded me $20,000. So now I'm able to focus solely on first step healthcare training and give it everything it needs. All because I live in Detroit.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.